I'm so scared right now. I was just watching the Blair Witch Project. I want to apologize to my parents that I'm so. No, I'm sorry. I just had to. I had to do it. Today's review is the Blair Witch Project. Yes, I have it on VHS. This is the way to do it. This is the way to watch it. Good old grainy VHS. It's a movie that really, divides people. I mean, some people claim it as a masterpiece. Others hate it. Think it's boring, stupid, pointless. I'm in the camp that really likes it. I've always liked it. Kind of what's interesting about the movie. I mean, the hype, the original hype around this movie was, even looking back on it, almost as interesting and fascinating as the movie itself. You know, the way they market it was very ingenious, making it seem like it was real, that these kids really did get lost in the woods. This is real footage. Of course, we all know. In the internet age, we know that's crap. But, being a budding horror fan back then in 1999. I think I was 11 years old when it came out. Had my little dial-up internet, visited the official website, read the story, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta see this. So I went to see it in the theater, which is pretty cool. Even though I think it was rated R, or 14A in Canada, whatever. But yeah, I think it's a really, really good movie. Great horror movie, great filmmaking. Because when you think about it, yes, it is a point of view horror movie, a faux documentary, really kind of paved the way for a lot of these types of movies to come, like, Paranormal Activity or whatever. But this is the granddaddy of them all. But what I think they do interesting about this movie, or what they did interestingly about the movie, is they did, in addition to making it the way that it was, like, the point of view horror, a fake documentary, mockumentary, that they really didn't do it as a gimmick. I mean, yes, they sort of did, but it was for good reason, and they made it work because, it's a fake documentary. The documentary goes wrong, but at the heart of everything is this folklore, this legend of the Blair Witch in Burkittsville, Maryland, that they completely made up and fictionalized, and kind of made you believe it, because of course you see the movie, it feels like a genuine documentary, and you see the interviews with townspeople. The townspeople are plants, of course, and they tell their stories about the Blair Witch, and the documentary students, they get it on film, and that's what's used for the movie. So it's more than just the gimmick. I mean, it's really interesting improvisational filmmaking, which I think is really interesting. Kind of what the genre needed at the time, like in the late '90s, turn of the century. What'd you have? You had like Scream knockoff after Scream knockoff, sexy teens and slashers. I mean, that stuff is good. I like it to a point, but it doesn't encapsulate genuine horror, which I think this movie does, because what it does in a really effective way is leave the horror to your mind. Leave, what you believe is going on, what kind of evil force is pursuing these kids, if it is an evil force at all. Maybe it could be some backwards-ass hick fucking with the kids and killing them and making their skin into suits or something. I don't know. You don't really know for sure. And it's interesting how it leaves you up to your mind to kind of think about it. And, everyone will have a vision in their mind of what this Blair Witch kind of looks like. And, it's interesting, if you want to, like, look at artist renditions. Like, it was really interesting. I remember this, McFarlane Toys, how they do all those cool, toys of horror, movie maniacs. They did one of the Blair Witch, which was a little over the top, but Google that, look at that, it's pretty cool. But yeah, like, I mean, the whole legend that they've created around the movie is an interesting enough legend. Like, that's kind of what I think the basis of all horror movies are. They're like campfire tales, scary stories that you tell to friends, and, something to creep you out, and this movie works like a scary story. And, it's modern, and it does have that documentary filmmaking gimmick, if you want to call it that, but it does it in a really effective way. And unlike a lot of movies where you have this, I at least think it does have an actual good reason why they keep filming. One, you have the girl Heather, who she's just obsessed with making this documentary. She, you know, you get the sense that she's not putting the camera down no matter what. And there's just that great scene near the end where the guy, I forget his name, sorry, there's Heather, Josh, and who else? The one other guy, whatever. But he's talking to her. He's like, yeah, I think I know why you won't put down this camera. Because if you keep it up and you keep looking through it, nothing seems real. It's like you're watching yourself instead of actually being yourself. So I think in a horrific situation like that, that makes sense psychologically. Compare it to like a Paranormal Activity, or like, Mika, you fucking asshole, just put the fucking camera down, you fucking yuppie prick. But anyway, enough about those movies. I think it's a very well done movie. I mean, yeah, it's not something I can watch all the time. And in fact, every time I watch it, I get a different kind of experience with it. Sometimes I will get really, really into it, really, just absorb it, really get drawn into it. Other times, I'll admit it, I'll get kind of bored. But if it hits you just right, I think this movie is a masterpiece. Really one of the definitive horror films of the 90s. I think it's great. If you still have the VHS, you gotta dust it off a little bit, give it a watch. Great to watch around Halloween time. Great to watch before camping. So yeah, it did to camping what Jaws did to going swimming. So I think it's a great movie. That's my opinion. A classic, really. I mean, it's been enough time. I think, yeah, you could call it a classic. It's just, too bad that the sequel, Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, sucked balls.